The morning started like any other in New York. People rushed to work, cars honked in traffic, and pigeons fought over bits of dropped hot dogs. No one expected the massive shadow that suddenly fell over Central Park. The ship appeared without warning. It hung in the air, a gleaming silver disk that stretched for miles across the sky. Similar ships appeared over London, Beijing, Moscow, and other major cities worldwide. The world stopped and watched. Television channels cut their regular programming. Social media exploded with pictures and videos. Military jets scrambled but kept their distance, unsure whether to treat the visitors as hostile or friendly. After 3 hours of tense waiting, the first message came. It broadcast on all frequencies, in perfect English and other Earth languages. "We are the Galactic Council. We come in peace. We wish to speak with your world leaders." The United Nations called an emergency session. Within hours, representatives from every major nation gathered in New York. The council chose 5 delegates to descend from their ship. Tall, blue-skinned beings with silver eyes and flowing robes that seemed to shimmer in the light. General James Miller stood at attention beside the UN Secretary-General, his decorated uniform carrying medals from years of service. As head of Earth's combined military council, he watched the aliens closely, noting their confident, almost arrogant, stride. The lead alien, who called himself First Speaker Tom, a name chosen to be simple for humans to pronounce, began the discussion. "We have watched your civilization for some time," he said, his translator device converting his musical language into English. "We believe you are ready to join the galactic community." Everything went smoothly until they reached the topic of military technology. First Speaker Tom picked up a standard-issue military rifle that had been brought for security demonstration purposes. He turned it over in his hands, his expression becoming something close to a smirk. "You still use chemical propellants, projectile weapons?" He passed the rifle to his colleagues, who shared knowing looks. "How quaint." General Miller felt his jaw tighten. "Our weapons have served us well," he said carefully. The second speaker, who went by Ray, let out a sound like tinkling bells, clearly laughter. "Well enough against each other, perhaps. But in space, against modern weapons, surely you jest." To demonstrate their point, Ray activated a personal shield, a shimming blue field that surrounded him. He invited General Miller to fire at him. The general declined, but the aliens insisted on showing their superiority. One of their guards fired an energy weapon at Ray. The beam splashed harmlessly against the shield. "You see," Tom said, "your primitive bullets would do even less. They would never penetrate our basic defensive technology." The military officers in the room exchanged glances. General Miller noticed something interesting. The aliens seemed genuinely convinced of their superiority, not just boasting. They truly believed their energy shields made them invulnerable. "Perhaps," Miller said diplomatically, "we could arrange a proper demonstration later, to help us understand the difference in our technologies." The aliens agreed, still chuckling among themselves. As the meeting continued, Miller sent a discreet message on his phone. "Begin Project Kinetic. They don't understand basic physics." The rest of the meeting focused on trade agreements, cultural exchange, and the process of Earth joining the Galactic Council. But throughout it all, the aliens kept making small comments about Earth's charming and primitive technology. When the meeting ended, First Speaker Tom approached General Miller one last time. "Don't worry," he said in what he probably thought was a kind tone. "Once you join the Council, we'll help you develop proper weapons. You can put these ancient tools in museums where they belong." Miller smiled politely, but his eyes remained cold. As he watched the aliens return to their ship, he thought about how many times in Earth's history an advanced civilization had underestimated a primitive one. How many times had someone mistaken different for inferior? The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had revealed their weakness while trying to show their strength. And they had done something even worse. They had wounded human pride. As the sun set over New York, General Miller made another call. "Get me the best weapons experts we have. I want to know exactly what happens when a simple lead bullet hits an energy shield designed to deflect plasma. The Galactic Council had laughed at human guns. Soon, they would learn why that was a mistake. 3 days after the first contact, the Galactic Council called for another meeting. This time, they chose a military base in Nevada for their demonstration of power. The dry desert air crackled with tension as their ships descended from the morning sky. First Speaker Tom stood before the gathered military leaders of Earth, his silver robes catching the sunlight. Behind him, 20 alien soldiers carried what looked like sleek rifles made of chrome and light. "We have reviewed your military capabilities," Tom announced, his translator making his voice sound almost bored. "For your own safety, and as a condition of joining the Council, all Earth nations must destroy their projectile weapons within 1 month." General Miller sat in the front row, his face carefully blank. "All of them?" he asked. "Everything," Second Speaker Ray confirmed. "Rifles, handguns, artillery, even your primitive tanks. They're dangerous to your own people and useless against modern threats." To prove their point, the Council had arranged a demonstration. They set up targets at various distances, protected by their energy shields. Their soldiers stepped forward, firing plasma bolts that dissolved the targets into ash, but only after the shield was commanded to drop. "You see," Tom spread his arms wide, "the shields stop everything, and our weapons can destroy any target once the shield is down. Your bullets would be stopped by even our weakest barriers. And if we refuse?" asked General Miller, his voice calm despite the threat hanging in the air. The first speaker's expression hardened. "Then Earth will be considered too dangerous to join galactic society. We cannot risk primitive weapons being used by untrained species. For comparison, letting you keep these weapons would be like giving plasma rifles to cave people." In the back of the room, Dr. Anna West, Earth's leading physicist, quietly recorded everything with a small device. She paid special attention to how the shields rippled when hit by plasma fire. Her eyes narrowed as she noticed something interesting about the shield's reaction to a small stone that accidentally hit it during the demonstration. General Miller noticed it too. He had seen the shields flicker differently when hit by physical objects versus energy weapons, but he kept his face neutral as he stood to address the Council. "We'll need time to discuss this among Earth's nations," he said carefully. "Disarming every military and police force on the planet is a big decision." "You have 1 month," Tom replied firmly. "After that, we'll begin inspections. Any nation found hiding weapons will face consequences." As the meeting broke up, Miller quietly gathered his most trusted officers. "Get me everything we have on their shield technology, and I want every scrap of data from today's demonstration." Dr. West was already ahead of him. "Sir," she whispered, showing him her readings, "their shields are tuned specifically for energy weapons. They convert and disperse plasma and laser fire, but physical objects. They create a different reaction." Miller finished her thought. "Almost like they never expected to need protection from something as simple as a bullet," West completed. "Their entire defensive technology is built around stopping energy weapons. They've completely forgotten about basic kinetic impact." Miller nodded slowly. "How many weeks would you need to verify this?" "Give me 5 days and access to our best labs. I'll prove it one way or the other." The general looked up at the alien ships hovering in the desert sky. "Make it 3 days. I don't trust their timeline." He pulled out his phone and sent a message to all major military commands. "Continue disarmament theater. Triple ammunition production in hidden facilities." The aliens watched with satisfaction as news channels began showing footage of weapons being destroyed. Tanks were driven into recycling plants, rifles were melted down, and artillery pieces were dismantled. What they didn't see were the underground factories working overtime, the secret tests being conducted, and the quiet preparation of Earth's forces. They had given humanity an ultimatum, but they had also given them something far more dangerous, a reason to prove them wrong. As First Speaker Tom's ship lifted off into the sunset, he felt pleased with how easily the humans had accepted their demands. He had no way of knowing that deep beneath the Nevada desert, Dr. West was already proving exactly why their assumptions about primitive weapons were about to cost them dearly. 2 weeks after the ultimatum, First Speaker Tom received an unusual request. The humans wanted to arrange a farewell demonstration of their old weapons before destroying the last batch. The council members found this amusing enough to agree. The demonstration was set up at a remote military testing ground. A cool morning breeze swept across the desert as council members arrived in their ceremonial robes, chattering among themselves about human sentimentality. Think of it as a museum tour. First Speaker Tom told his colleagues. Let them say goodbye to their outdated tools. Dr. West stood beside General Miller, both watching the aliens set up their personal shields. Her handheld scanner quietly recorded every detail of the shield's energy patterns. 3 days of intense testing had confirmed her theories, but this would be their first live trial. The council members arranged themselves behind a transparent barrier, not for protection, they claimed, but to get a better view. 5 of them activated their personal shields, creating overlapping fields of blue energy that hummed in the desert air. Please, show us your best, Second Speaker Ray said, his translator barely hiding his amusement. We'll humor this ritual of yours. General Miller nodded to a figure standing at the firing line. Master Sergeant Bill, a 20-year veteran and top marksman, stepped forward. In his hands, he held what looked like a standard military rifle. This is the M24, Miller explained. A simple bolt-action rifle. It fires a 7.62 millimeters round, just a small piece of metal propelled by gunpowder. The aliens nodded condescendingly. First Speaker Tom actually yawned, the gesture strange on his alien face. The target will be the center shield, Miller continued, unless you object. Object? Why would we? Ray laughed that tinkling laugh again. Your projectile will simply bounce off. But please, proceed with your demonstration. Master Sergeant Bill took his position. The rifle looked almost crude compared to the gleaming alien technology. But Bill had helped test Dr. West's theories. He knew exactly what he was doing. The desert fell silent. Bill's finger curled around the trigger. He took a slow breath, adjusting slightly for the wind. The crack of the rifle echoed across the testing ground. The bullet, traveling at nearly 3 times the speed of sound, crossed the distance in an instant. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. The bullet struck the shield. Instead of bouncing off, it pushed through, creating a ripple effect like a stone dropped in water. The shield, designed to disperse energy weapons, had no way to handle simple kinetic force. It tried to convert the bullet's energy, but there was nothing to convert, just mass and velocity. The shield shattered. The bullet, barely slowed, continued through where the shield had been. It embedded itself in the sandberm behind the demonstration area with a soft thump. Silence fell over the testing ground. The council members stared in shock at the destroyed shield. First Speaker Tom's face had turned a pale shade of blue. Impossible, Ray whispered. Our shields are impenetrable. To energy weapons, Dr. West stepped forward. They're designed to handle plasma, lasers, and other energy-based attacks. But a physical projectile, that's just basic physics. Force equals mass times acceleration. Your shields can't convert what isn't energy to begin with. General Miller allowed himself a small smile. We tried to tell you our weapons weren't primitive. They're just different. Sometimes the simple solution is the best one. The remaining council members switched off their shields, suddenly looking much less confident. First Speaker Tom's translator crackled as he spoke rapidly with his colleagues. This demonstration is over, he announced finally. We will need to discuss this development. As the aliens hurried back to their ships, Dr. West turned to General Miller. Should we tell them about the railguns? Miller shook his head. Let's save something for the next meeting. I have a feeling they'll be revising the disarmament ultimatum very soon. Master Sergeant Bill simply began cleaning his rifle, a small smile on his weathered face. He'd just helped prove something he'd known all along. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Above them, the council ships lifted off in a hurry, their engines roaring louder than usual, as if they couldn't leave fast enough. The humans had just done the impossible. They'd shown that the simplest gun could defeat the most advanced alien shield. The Galactic Council's laughter had died that day, killed by a single bullet and the basic laws of physics they'd forgotten long ago. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council's Science Division buzzed with nervous energy. Dozens of alien scientists gathered around a central hologram, showing the moment their supposedly impenetrable shield had failed against a simple human bullet. In a nearby laboratory on Earth, Dr. West stood before a group of military leaders and scientists, explaining exactly why the alien shields had failed so spectacularly. "It's beautifully simple," she said, pointing to a diagram. "Their entire defensive technology is based on energy dispersion. When their shields encounter an energy weapon, they convert and redirect that energy. But they never considered pure kinetic force." She picked up a bullet from the table. "This isn't trying to blast through their shield with energy. It's just mass moving at high velocity. Their shields literally don't know what to do with it." General Miller watched as she demonstrated with a simple model. "So their technology actually made them more vulnerable?" he asked. "Exactly," West replied. "They became so focused on defending against advanced energy weapons that they forgot about basic physics. It's like building the perfect umbrella against rain, but forgetting it needs to be solid enough to not break in the wind." Meanwhile, in the council's science chamber, First Speaker Tom listened as his experts tried to explain their failure. "The human weapons," one scientist named Max explained, "they don't give our shields anything to work with. Our defenses are designed to catch energy and redirect it. But these projectiles, they're just mass and velocity. Can we adapt?" Tom asked, his usual confidence shaken. "Not easily," Max admitted. "Our entire defensive technology would need to be redesigned. We've spent centuries perfecting our shields against energy weapons. Starting over to stop physical projectiles would take years." Back on Earth, Dr. West continued her explanation. "What makes it even better is that their ships use the same shield technology, just scaled up. A properly designed kinetic weapon could punch right through their capital ships." She brought up another diagram. "And here's the real genius of it. The faster the projectile moves, the harder it hits. Our railgun prototypes can accelerate projectiles to speeds their shields have never had to deal with." The military leaders exchanged looks. Humanity had accidentally developed the perfect counter to the Council's technology. "There's more," West added. "Their shields actually make the problem worse for them. When they try to stop our bullets, the shield attempts to convert kinetic energy into something it can disperse. But it can't, so it overloads. That's why the shield didn't just fail, it shattered." In the council chamber, the panic was growing. Another scientist, called Jack, was showing data from their planetary defense systems. "Our entire defensive network has the same vulnerability," he reported grimly. "We've built everything around stopping energy weapons. A coordinated attack using physical projectiles could penetrate any of our world's defenses." First Speaker Tom slumped in his chair. "How did we miss this? How did we forget something so basic?" "We evolved past projectile weapons so long ago," Max said quietly. "We thought we had advanced beyond them. We never considered that sometimes the simple solution could be the most effective." Dr. West finished her presentation with a sobering thought. "The Council hasn't just forgotten about kinetic weapons, they've engineered themselves into a corner. Their shields make them more vulnerable to our primitive weapons than they would be with no shields at all." General Miller nodded slowly. "And they've given us a month to prepare while they think we're disarming." "Exactly," West smiled. "While they're trying to solve a problem that would take years to fix, we're mass-producing their worst nightmare. Simple bullets that move very, very fast. The Council's Science Division meeting ended in disarray. They had no quick solution, no easy fix. Centuries of technological advancement had left them vulnerable to the most basic forms of warfare. As First Speaker Tom prepared to report this devastating news to the Council leadership, he received word that human ships had been spotted moving in formation near the outer planets. They weren't the sleek, energy-weapon-armed vessels the Council was used to. These were simple, solid craft built around massive rail guns, weapons designed to accelerate chunks of metal to incredible speeds. The humans hadn't just discovered the Council's weakness. They had already prepared to exploit it. The Galactic Council split into factions overnight. While some members advocated for peaceful negotiation with Earth, others demanded immediate action. Among them, Third Speaker Dan emerged as the leader of the hardliners. "We cannot allow these primitives to threaten our dominance," Dan declared to his supporters. "They must be disarmed now, before they realize their full potential." Without waiting for full Council approval, Dan ordered his battle fleet to Earth. 50 massive warships, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent, jumped into the solar system. On Earth, radar stations lit up with warnings. General Miller stood in the command center, watching as red dots appeared on the tactical display. "They're earlier than we expected," he said calmly, "but not earlier than we prepared for." He pressed a button on his command console. "Initiate Operation Newton." Hidden bunkers across Earth opened. Launch platforms that the alien scans had dismissed as primitive missile silos revealed their true nature. Each contained a magnetically accelerated mass driver. A rail gun scaled up to launch ship-killing projectiles. In orbit, the human defense fleet took position. Their ships looked crude compared to the alien vessels. No energy weapons, just armored hulls built around massive rail guns. Third Speaker Dan's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Humans, you will disarm immediately or face destruction. Your weapons are nothing compared to our." General Miller cut the transmission. "Target their flagship," he ordered. "Master Sergeant Bill, if you would do the honors." Bill, now operating a orbital defense platform, smiled. "Just like at the test range, sir, except bigger." The first shot from Earth's surface defense grid streaked toward the alien fleet. The projectile, a simple tungsten rod accelerated to a fraction of light speed, struck Dan's flagship dead center. The shield flared brilliant blue as it tried to disperse energy that wasn't there. The rod punched through like the shield wasn't even there, tearing through the ship's hull. "All ships, open fire," Miller commanded. "Show them what primitive weapons can do." The battle that followed was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Their energy weapons splashed harmlessly off the humans' heavily armored ships, while Earth's kinetic weapons wreaked havoc through their shields. In his crippled flagship, Dan watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart by what he had dismissed as obsolete technology. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their weapons are so simple." "Simple works," Miller's voice replied over the command channel. "You forgot that while trying to be clever." The human fleet moved with precision, their tactics refined by centuries of naval warfare. They didn't try to match the aliens' advanced technology. They didn't need to. Their guns just had to be good enough to put metal on target. First Speaker Tom's voice suddenly cut through the chaos. "Stop this madness," he ordered. Third Speaker Dan acted without authority. The Council does not want war. But it was too late for some of the alien ships. Their mighty shields, designed to stop energy weapons, proved useless against kinetic penetrators. Several vessels broke apart, their crews evacuating in escape pods. "Cease fire," Miller ordered once the surviving alien ships began powering down their weapons. Rescue operations for survivors are now priority. As human ships moved to collect escape pods, Dan's flagship drifted powerless. The mighty vessel, pride of the Council fleet, had been defeated by what amounted to a very fast rock. Dr. West's voice came over the command channel. "Their shields are amazing technology, sir. They just solved the wrong problem. All that sophistication, and they couldn't stop a simple projectile." Miller nodded. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. They forgot that while chasing technological advancement. In the aftermath, as rescue operations continued, First Speaker Tom sent a message to Earth. We deeply regret this unauthorized action. The Council wishes to reopen negotiations, this time as equals. Miller looked at the tactical display, showing the scattered remnants of Dan's fleet. Tell them we accept, and suggest they might want to review their shield technology. The day had proved what humanity had always known. Sometimes the old ways were still the best ways, and physics didn't care how advanced you thought you were. The true test of humanity's military might came 3 days later, when the radical faction of the Council launched a full-scale assault. This time, they'd brought their entire combat fleet, 300 warships, determined to prove their superiority over primitive Earth. General Miller stood at the command center, watching the enemy fleet emerge from faster-than-light travel. Behind him, Dr. West monitored their shield configurations. They've modified their shields, she reported, trying to compensate for kinetic weapons, but they still don't understand the basic problem. Miller nodded. Launch the first wave. Let's show them how Earth fights. The battle began with a demonstration of classic naval tactics, adapted for space. Human ships formed lines of battle, just as wooden ships had done centuries ago. The alien commander laughed at such an outdated formation. His laughter died when the lines opened fire. Thousands of railgun rounds streaked across space. The alien shields, even modified, couldn't handle the sheer mass of metal being hurled at them. Ships began falling out of formation as rounds punched clean through them. They're splitting up, an operator called out, trying to use their superior maneuverability. Miller smiled. Just like we planned. Spring the trap. Hidden behind Earth's moon, a second human fleet emerged. While the aliens had focused on the obvious threat, they'd missed the flanking force. Now they were caught in a classic hammer and anvil. Their energy weapons are useless against our armor, West reported excitedly. The heat just dissipates across the hull plates. Basic metallurgy beats their advanced plasma weapons. The alien fleet commander, in desperation, ordered his ships to close range. Surely, he thought, these primitives couldn't fight at point-blank range. He was wrong again. At close range, human gunners didn't even need complex targeting systems. Space combat had become like the broadside battles of old. Railguns fired masses of metal directly into alien ships, their shields failing under the onslaught. "Sir," West called out, "they're trying to adapt. Changing shield frequencies." "Doesn't matter," Miller replied. "You can't frequency shift your way around Newton's laws." The battle turned into a textbook demonstration of classical military tactics. Human ships performed maneuvers developed by admirals centuries ago, crossing the T, flanking movements, even old-fashioned broadside exchanges. The alien commanders, used to complex energy weapon duels, couldn't comprehend the brutal simplicity of human tactics. Their ships, optimized for energy combat, found themselves being torn apart by simple kinetic impacts. "They're starting to retreat," the tactical officer reported. "Their formation is breaking up." Miller watched as the mighty alien fleet scattered. Their sophisticated weapons had proved useless against armor plates thick enough to stop them. Their advanced shields had failed against weapons too simple to be stopped. "Send the message," he ordered, "to all alien ships. Surrender or retreat. You have 10 minutes before we fire again." The response was immediate. Ship after ship powered down weapons. The few that tried to fight on were quickly disabled by precise rail gunfire. As the battle ended, Dr. West completed her analysis. "It's amazing," she said. "They developed all this incredible technology, but forgot the basics. Their ships are actually fragile under all that sophistication." Miller nodded. "They built their entire military doctrine around energy weapons and shields. Nobody ever asked, what if someone just throws a rock at us?" The cleanup operation began. Human ships moved to rescue escape pods and secure disabled alien vessels. Each captured ship revealed the same story. Amazing technology, undone by forgetting basic physics. In the command center, Miller received a message from the main council. They wanted to discuss peace terms. Their confidence in technological superiority had been shattered by humanity's primitive but devastatingly effective weapons. "Remind me," Miller asked West, "what's that old saying about advanced technology?" She smiled. "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. But magic doesn't stop a bullet." As the sun rose over Earth, humanity had proven an ancient truth. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. The aliens had sought to master energy and light, while humans had simply remembered that mass times acceleration equals force. And in the end, physics always wins. 1 month after the Great Space Battle, representatives from Earth and the Galactic Council met on neutral ground, a space station orbiting the moon. The chamber held an odd mix of the Council's flowing robes and human military uniforms. First Speaker Tom, looking considerably humbler than during first contact, stood to address the gathering. "We acknowledge our error," he began. "We confused different with primitive and advanced with superior. Earth has taught us a valuable lesson." General Miller sat with Dr. West at the human delegation's table. On display between them lay 2 weapons, an alien plasma rifle and a standard Earth military rifle. They had become symbols of the fundamental differences in thinking between the 2 civilizations. "The Council proposes a new relationship," Tom continued, "not as superiors guiding primitives, but as equals. We have much to learn from each other. Starting with basic physics, I hope," Dr. West muttered, earning a quiet chuckle from Miller. The terms of the new agreement were straightforward. Earth would join the Council as a full member, maintaining its military independence. In exchange, humans would share their expertise in kinetic weapons technology, while gaining access to alien advances in other fields. "We've already begun adapting our defenses," Second Speaker Ray admitted. "Though I suspect it will take years to match your expertise in projectile weapons." Miller nodded. "And we're interested in your medical technology and FTL drive systems. Perhaps we can find a balance between simple and sophisticated solutions." The meeting continued as various technical and diplomatic details were worked out. But the real breakthrough came during an informal discussion over what the aliens called refreshments. "I must know," an alien scientist named Ben asked West, "how did you maintain such knowledge of basic physics while advancing technologically? We lost that somewhere along the way." West smiled. "We never saw simple solutions as inferior. Sometimes the old ways work best. Your energy weapons are amazing, but they're complex. A rifle just throws a piece of metal really fast. Not much to go wrong there." The aliens had brought examples of their shield technology for joint research. Human scientists were already finding ways to improve it, not by making it more complex, but by returning to fundamental principles. "Your shields are incredible engineering," West explained to the alien scientists. "But they're over-engineered. Sometimes you need to step back and ask, what's the simplest way to solve this problem?" As the conference concluded, First Speaker Tom made one final address. "Let this be a lesson to all species in the galaxy. True advancement isn't about abandoning the simple for the complex. It's about knowing when to use each." Miller stood as well. "Earth looks forward to joining the galactic community. We have much to teach each other. Though perhaps the first lesson should be a review of basic physics." The laughter that followed was genuine. No longer the condescending chuckles of the first contact, but the shared amusement of equals who had learned from each other. As the delegates prepared to depart, Dr. West made one final note in her journal. "Today marks a new chapter in human history. We've proven that humanity's strength lies not in forgetting our past as we advance, but in remembering the fundamental truths that got us here. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't the most advanced one. It's the one that simply works." The alien ships departed Earth orbit that evening, their crews now treating human vessels with newfound respect. The sight of railgun mounts tends to inspire that kind of reaction. In his office, General Miller looked at a new addition to his wall, a framed bullet alongside a disabled alien shield generator. Below it, a plaque read, "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution." "Think they've learned their lesson?" West asked, joining him. Miller smiled. "About underestimating primitive weapons? I'd say so. But the real lesson is bigger than that. It's about remembering where you came from while moving forward." As night fell over Earth, humanity had gained its place among the stars, not through overwhelming technology, but by remembering that sometimes the old ways, the simple ways, were still the best ways. The Galactic Council had learned to stop laughing at human guns, and humanity had learned that their greatest strength wasn't in trying to match alien technology. It was in staying true to what worked, no matter how simple it seemed.